Hey everybody, this is Dr. Shah from Inspire Chiropractic. Today I actually really want to talk to you guys about the vagus nerve and the autoimmune connection because, if your child has been battling chronic inflammation, autoimmune challenges, constant infections, chronic gut issues, or they're having other mysterious health challenges, chances are that you have just been told to manage it, right? Manage the symptoms, manage the diet, manage the flare-ups, and management of chronic illnesses and autoimmune conditions in conventional medicine, it looks like you're just taking a fistful of medications every day, right? While management of autoimmune disorders from a functional standpoint most often looks like taking a fistful of supplements, right? Vitamins, minerals, homeopathic remedies, and more. It's kind of the same thing, but not the same thing at the same time, right? But almost no one in either form of medicine is asking the far more important question of why can't your child's immune system calm itself down in the first place? And that is where the vagus nerve enters the conversation. So this video is going to be for parents who are exhausted from chasing the symptoms and who have already tried all medications, the restrictive diets, the supplements, the specialist appointments, and they are ready to understand the deeper root cause that is actually triggering your child's chronic immune conditions, right? So we are going to be explaining what the vagus nerve actually does and why it serves as the master regulator of a child's immune system. We're going to explore how birth trauma and early stresses can disrupt vagal function long before the signs actually become obvious, and why chronic inflammation may actually keep resurfacing despite doing everything right. Today we're also going to show you guys some insight scanning. Insight scans which can reveal what things like blood work, lab testing, and even GI mapping often sometimes misses, and how the neurologically focused chiropractic care that we do here at Inspire and many PX offices around the world actually works directly to restore vagal nerve function from the inside out. Because see, we see this pattern constantly at offices around the country and in our office almost every single day. These children who come into our office whose case history starts off as colic, then it develops into reflux, ear infections, one round of antibiotics after another. By school age, the child has allergies. Maybe they have eczema, maybe asthma. And then one day a diagnosis starts to land. Juvenile arthritis, pandas, right? Now the labs reveal multiple autoimmune markers that is going to send this family into a whole new world of specialists and medications. And at each stage, the conventional system just tries to prescribe another medication to try to suppress and treat the symptoms of this chronic inflammation and immune system dysfunction. But what are the long-term side effects of that approach? And why has no one ever stopped to ask, why does this child's immune system keep overreacting and responding this way? See, while your conventional providers will continue to blame genetics or state that simply they don't know what's causing it, a deeper dive into research actually shows that kids who receive multiple antibiotic rounds before age 2 are significantly more likely to struggle with allergies, asthma, gut problems, and other autoimmune or inflammation-related conditions later in life. But the real answer as to what's happening in a child's body goes a little bit deeper than the antibiotics themselves, right? We need to start looking at why the infections keep happening in the first place, even when they were younger. And the answer for thousands of families traces back onto one thing: a nervous system that has lost its ability to regulate starting earlier than most people even suspect. Because most parents, especially if you're watching our content, at this point you have heard of the fight or flight response, what's called the gas pedal, right? But the body itself has a brake pedal, and this is called the vagus nerve. Now the vagus nerve itself is the longest cranial nerve in the body. It's called the great wandering nerve, right? It's going to connect your brain to the heart, lungs, gut, and immune organs. Its primary driver is going to be of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is you basically resting and digesting and the regulating side of your system. It's going to help control your heart rate, your breathing, digestion, emotional regulation, going back to Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory work, and critical immune responses. Now, when this system is working, it's going to act like an air traffic controller, right? It's coordinating every system in the body. When it's not working, everything downstream starts to lose its connection, including how the immune system actually responds to threats of the environment. And guys, here's a funny thing. This is not new information. In fact, more than 20 years ago, researchers at the Feinstein Institute for Medical Research made a discovery that actually changed the understanding of immunity entirely, right? What they had found out that the brain actually sends signals down the vagus nerve to tell the immune system to calm down. This is called the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. For the nerds out there, let's get a little nerdy, right? When inflammation rises in the body, the vagus nerve, it detects it. It sends a signal back to the brain, and the brain sends back what's called a calming response. That response will release a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which then attaches to the immune cells in the spleen and tells them to stop producing inflammatory proteins like TNF, IL-6, IL-1. For the young doctors that are watching this, pay attention to that stuff, right? Now, this is your immune system's built-in off switch, right? And when the vagal nerve signaling, it becomes disrupted, that off switch, it goes offline. The inflammation that should have been resolved becomes chronic. See, we have a couple studies that I want to show you guys in a little bit, but I kind of want to keep going for just a little bit, because here is a question that mainstream medicine continuously fails to ask. Why does the vagus nerve actually continue to stop working in the first place, right? In our office and in many PX offices around the world, we have something that we call the perfect storm. The perfect storm refers to a layered sequential stressors during key developmental windows that actually overwhelm your child's nervous system early in life. It starts off as something called prenatal stress, right? Prenatal stress can influence vagus nerve development in utero. It shapes regulation before birth even happens. Because, for example, if you are undergoing a lot of prenatal stress, the stress is then transmitted to your baby, and it makes your child think that the world out there is stressful, so they raise inflammation markers and stress levels to kind of respond to it. Second most common thing we see in this office is going to be birth stress, or interventions that may strain the brainstem and the upper cervical region, impacting early vagal function. Now, the vagus nerve is also very sensitive to chemicals and toxins, which show up early and often even in the infant's environment. This is why, detoxes and RD40 and all these eliminations and things like that are so popular right now, because finally parents are starting to understand, and the world is starting to understand, that these toxins do play a toll on our system. But what can happen is this early vagal dysfunction. It starts to show up as digestive issues first, right? Then it shows up as sleep struggles, excessive crying, and frequent infections, often leading to ongoing dysregulation. Over time, this can result in a nervous system that is stuck in a stress mode, with symptoms being labeled separately instead of recognizing the shared underlying pattern, right? And the reason why diet, supplements, and lifestyle changes only go so far is because the natural approaches that support vagal tone, deep breathing, cold exposure, quality sleep, omega-3s, positive social connections, park time outside, breathing, all these different things that we do, guys, they are genuinely valuable. But the problem is that none of them can correct the foundational neurological interference, because those things just don't go deep enough into the body where the issue is actually happening. Because the subluxation that a lot of times that we pick up, and subluxation is what we were talking about honestly over here, is a subluxation that happens at the brainstem, at the upper cervical spine level, and the transitional regions of the neurospinal systems, which become biomechanically compromised, so the vagus nerve dysfunction, all the different things. These breathing exercises and dietary changes that are supposed to help regulate your system, they start supporting a dysfunctional system rather than correcting the dysfunction itself. Easiest way to think about it, it's kind of like trying to remodel a house on a cracked foundation, right? You can put in beautiful floors, fresh paint, but until you fix the foundation, the structure will keep shifting. And this is why parents consistently say that they have tried everything. It helps a little bit, but a child still struggles. So this is where we need to change the conversation from suppressing symptoms and inflammation through traditional medicine, and goes even deeper than functional medicine, which looks to support each system individually, right? Gut, immune, through supplements, vitamins, whatever all they're doing. Because here's something funny for you, because we have a whole bunch of research right now. There's actually a recent trial that was done on 12 weeks of chiropractic care that actually measured what we call objective biomarkers. They measured something called BDNF, which is basically brain adaptability. They measured cortisol, which is stress hormones, and they also measured TNF-A and IL-6, which is basically the same inflammatory cytokines that are central to autoimmune conditions, right? And during this research, what they were able to see that their results showed increased brain function. They were able to reduce the inflammation markers as well as improve cortisol patterns. It basically showed that the upstream the changes that they were seen in the study, it basically actually showed that there was an upstream physiological change occurring, and it wasn't just suppressing symptoms or inflammation from the outside. And this is actually what we call the inside-out real neurophysiological change that we're gunning after. So neurologically focused chiropractic care is basically going to be working by removing the subluxations and the actual interference that prevents the vagus nerve from firing full and doing its job. Now, in order to find out if this is in fact happening for your child, you will need to get into our office here at Inspire Chiropractic in Dallas, or any of the PX offices around the world, and get your inside scans actually done. So this incredible technology makes this dysfunction visible. So I'm going to show you guys actually just a little bit, but you guys will have to kind of just be patient. I am, believe it or not, kind of bad at technology. So let me show you what we're going over. Aha, I figured it out. Okay, so we have these 3 tests that we actually do in our office, and I wanted to just show them a little bit for you. We have this test over here, which is called the neurothermal. It's basically designed to take out inflammation markers, throughout your neurospinal system, so that way we can pick out where in the neurospinal system this actual dysfunction is starting to take root. We have a secondary test that we bring in as well called the surface EMG. This is basically designed to see how much unnecessary energy your system is hanging onto and where the dysfunction could be taking root as well. And then the third one that we pick up is going to be the heart rate variability. The heart rate variability is a test that is designed, hopefully I didn't go too fast on that one. The heart rate variability test is designed to basically see how much reserves the system is having, because a lot of times with these kids who are having autoimmune conditions, they will start to just get depleted and they just show this global neurological exhaustion. Now, when the interference is actually cleared, this cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway, it can come back online. And these kids don't just feel better, guys. Their bodies actually regulate inflammation properly. It starts fighting infections more effectively and can handle stress appropriately as well. So if your child is living with chronic inflammation, autoimmune challenges, or a pattern of escalating immune challenges that conventional medicine just keeps managing without actually resolving, this is the missing piece that's really worth exploring. Because see, the body knows how to deal with this when the interference is removed, right? It's kind of like if you have a cut on your hand and we just keep cutting it, it cannot heal it, right? That's the interference we're trying to remove, because the vagus nerve itself, it knows how to regulate the immune system, and it can finally end up stopping inflammation when it is actually free to do its job. Because guys, if I'm being honest with you, our children, they don't need more labels, they don't need more medications, and they definitely don't need more supplements either, right? They need a more adaptive nervous system function and a nervous system that is regulated. That is the hallmark of the work that we do in our office through what we call our 16-week regulation reset. If you're interested in getting your kiddos checked out, click the link in our bio, send us a DM, or schedule directly with myself, Dr. Shah, here at Inspire Chiropractic in Dallas. Let's get the nervous system checked and find out what's really going on underneath it all, right? The path forward, guys, really does start with restoring the foundation first, and we are here to help you take that first step. Take care, guys.